I interviewed a girl named Ambria. She has a comprehension disability. She told me that her parents kind of ignored the disability until she was a freshman in high school, and then she started getting put on an independent education plan, which is it sets different goals for different children depending on their needs of education, help, and support. Um, so I asked her questions like, the first question I asked her was, what was your hardest year with your comprehension disability, and why was that? She said that her freshman year was her hardest, which is the first year that she started getting help. She started getting put on the independent education plan. And she said, I felt it was hard because I felt everyone was smarter than me and more advanced, that I was in these special ed classes and I felt left out and out of place. Um, I find that that was a really common theme in her stories that she told me about dealing with her disability. Um, and so her parents noticed her disability. She said she thinks it was around fifth grade, and they kind of ignored it until seventh grade. Um, she said that teachers would kind of just grade her poorly, just barely enough to get her to go on or make her retake a couple different classes um, in the meantime. I asked how has her schoolwork been impacted throughout the years, and she said, well, it is very hard to get through school because everything involves reading, which it does. It's a very important part of education. She said, I had to get extra help from my teachers, and it's hard to always get one-on-one time with them. So I guess I didn't do well a lot, which makes a lot of sense because in a classroom with 30 kids, it's really hard to get one-on-one time with each of them, even more than 10 minutes a day, you know? Um, I asked her, how has it impacted your interpersonal relationships? Um, I wanted to string this part along from class, or to stick into this interview. And she said, it hasn't much. Sometimes I have a hard time explaining myself, but I don't think that is from my comprehension disability. She said she thinks it's just kind of like a human disability, as she put it, just having feelings and stuff and not being able to explain how you feel, which I understood. I could relate to that very well. I then asked has this disability impacted your college education and how? And she said, very much so. My freshman year of college, I was put on academic suspension because my grades were so bad. I wasn't getting help then. So what she means is like she wasn't getting help her freshman year, but after that she started getting put on like an assistance, kind of like a college equivalent to the IEP. So they make her assignments kind of just a little bit altered just to suit her educational purposes. I asked what she was going to school for, and did your disability impact your decision? She says, I already went to school to be a dental assistant, but I need a license in the state of Minnesota, so I need to go back and do stuff I already know what to do. I don't think my disability impacted my decision. So she was explaining this to me, that she has like her certificate, but you need a license to practice correctly in the state of Minnesota. So that's what she's going to school for right now. So she knows how to do everything. And then I asked her as a follow-up if her disability impacted her work life. And she said, sometimes yes, when I'm working with my patients or reading notes from people, but it doesn't affect it too much. So she was telling me she might like incorrectly read a note. She said it hasn't been anything too bad that she's misinterpreted, but it's just small things. I asked her, do you think your disability impacts your access to information? Meaning like, do you think that you misinterpret a lot of what news articles say? And she said, yes, a lot of times I read things online, have no idea what they were saying or talking about. I then asked, what year did you start getting help? And she said, freshman year when I was taking special ed special classes, independent education plan, which is what I mentioned before. And then I asked her, do you think your disability will impact your future at all? And she said, no, I really don't. I thought the most interesting part is, I guess I never really thought about what life would be like having a comprehension issue. I've been always really good at reading and really good at comprehending things for the most part. Um, and so when I was just talking to her, she brought it up, and that's when I decided to interview her. I thought it was very interesting because I never knew she had a comprehension disability. I would have never noticed, I don't think. Um, and I learned that the disability can affect anybody, and it's important to have the proper resources to help each and every person. And I want to give you the definition of what comprehension disability is. So it's a learning disability on reading comprehension that affects the learner's ability to understand the meaning of words and passages. Um, so it pretty much means like she can read, but some things get mixed up and some things don't really work out in the right way in her brain. And it's a real difficult disability for some people to deal with. It really makes it hard. So she's a really nice gal, though. And she's done really well for herself. So she's doing well. All right. And that is my presentation.